Greetings, programs and users. It is time once again for another episode of Old Nerds Drinking. I am John Patrick, the Master Control Program. Here with me in the studio is...
Hey, it's Rojen. How are you? How is everybody doing? What's up? I'm a little under the weather today, so just cut me a little bit of slack.
We're going to bear with you. You're a trooper for coming out to record, because this is going to be, at the start, a pretty somber podcast. And as usual, we are old nerds and we are drinking, and today we are just drinking for a very specific reason, because we need to say goodbye to a true member of the Old Nerds Drinking family. 2 days ago, we lost Kitty Sammy. She has been here for pretty much every one of our records. Her favorite place to nap was on top of the mixing board. Every time the audio cut out, every time she came up to purr into the microphone, she was pretty much a part of the show. And I took her to the vet because she was having some problems a few weeks ago, and turned out she was in mid-stage kidney failure. And they said, yeah, she doesn't have time. We don't know how long she's going to have. And it turned out she didn't have a lot of time left. So she was doing okay for a couple of weeks, and then took a real bad turn. And then just Tuesday night we found her and she was gone. Or Tuesday morning we found her and she was gone. So today we are pouring one out for Sammy. May the Valkyries have carried her off to Valhalla. May she rest comfortably in the warmth of the mead halls of Odin as a member of the Einherjar. Her fight is over.
And may she pull Freya's chariot.
May she pull Freya's chariot. So today we are drinking from Rojen's Secret Stash.
What these are, I have a variety of meads here that I made back in 2015 with a buddy of mine. And they were just made and put off to the side and forgotten about. And I actually have sampled them. This one here that we're going to be drinking is an apple butter mead. And it was literally, we walked into a store and we were bored and we said, that looks like a cool ingredient. That looks like a cool ingredient. That looks cool. Let's just experiment and try making some really wacky meads. So we made 4 different ones in one night, and this is them. So
the saddest thing about this story is the fact that you guys didn't write anything down.
No.
So if this is like the greatest
It
mead
is.
I've ever tasted, I'll never be able to have it again because you've quite literally forgotten the recipe.
I can literally say this without any kind of arrogance or conceitedness or narcissisticness. These are the best meads that I have ever made in the, 20, almost 30 years of mead making. They all turned out great, and I can't make them again, so this is it.
And the shitty thing is, like, you gave up the opportunity for like the absolute best branded of this, because you could have called it apple butter mead with the boots with the fur.
I wasn't, yeah. Yeah, well, we do have one here. It's Pear Spice Girl. It's actually pretty good too. So, anyways,
all right. So let's clink it, or did we already?
We clinked, but hey, you know what? That cat hated my guts, but she was still cool. So she did not hate your guts, but Sammy. I once described to somebody that Sammy was 6 pounds soaking wet. She had a stub tail, and she would 100% fight God just to prove that she could. There was the one time we were sitting here, I put my hand up, and she kept high-fiving me, and then she was like, okay, I'm tired of this shit, and she started swiping at me.
Well, yeah, so, and somewhere...
She would sit, like, right next to me and just stare at me, and then when she would get bored, she'd walk over on the soundboard, and then she'd come back and just sit here and stare at me like, yeah, now what are you going to do?
She's like, bitch, you're in my house.
Yeah, exactly, so...
And somewhere I still have the gif of you two high-fiving, so...
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
All right, let's taste this mead.
I'll be honest, I won't be offended.
It's nice. I like that. I love the distinct honey flavor of mead. You don't really taste like you're drinking alcohol. It's like...
It's very smooth.
It is very smooth.
It's just spiced just enough.
There is no burn at all to this.
No.
It is just sweetness. And then after it's down, then you feel a little bit of warm coming on. Like, this is... The only thing is, I can't really say I taste apples.
What it was is it was made with an apple butter maple syrup that we happened to see. It was like a seasonal thing. And then we also put a little bit of apple juice in it. It's more of a cider than a mead. A cider is when you take apples and you ferment them with honey. And that's more or less what this one is. So yeah, this is, we just saw stuff and went, hey, that sounds like let's be good together. Let's try that. Let's try this. And that's really, we didn't want it because I'm not a huge apple butter fan, but I just wanted the sweetness and the apple of it. And it came out just right.
Yeah,
and,
this is damn near perfect.
Yeah, it's also been, well, it was made in 2015, so it's almost going on, 10 years now? It's about 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's had some chance to mellow.
It's been sitting in blue bottles in the dark, just shoved off in a corner somewhere.
Yeah. So now we're going for...
Well, I have one that I don't have marked, but I remember us making we called it a breakfast mead, and it was made with tangerines, maple syrup, the usual honey stuff, all the junk that goes into it.
I was going to say, you don't really see tangerines and maple syrup as a combination, but, hey, I'll try anything once.
Well, the thing is, a lot of the stuff gets fermented out of it. A lot of the sweetness and a lot of that offness gets fermented out. And what we did is we used tangerine peels in this one, because you don't want to put actual... Citrus does not ferment very well. Even prisoners will tell you that from making prison wine.
Well, no, because it's an acid, so it will actually kill the yeast and prevent it from fermenting.
Correct, but if you use the peels, a lot of your flavoring and stuff is in the peels.
Because it's the oils of it. It's the same reason why in cocktails, you'll peel the rind and then just kind of give that a twist to give the oils in the drink without adding the citrus.
So here was us getting this big bag of tangerines. Again, we did this in the fall. I think we did it going into the winter because that was, the tangerines were in season. So here we are peeling all of these tangerines, and we have this big pile of tangerines that were sitting there peeled, not being eaten yet. And then we have this big pile of, rinds and stuff from the oranges. The tricky part about making mead and beer and wine and all of these things is that you have to make sure everything is sanitized that goes into it. So sanitizing oranges is orange peels and stuff like that is kind of a tricky thing. So we actually had to use this no-rinse sanitizer that doesn't leave a residue and stuff, and we had to dry them out and all this junk. So we put a whole bag of one of those little orange bags of tangerines that you buy at the store around the holidays, and we put like a whole bag of that in there with them. And we just, again, it was like, this could turn out to be ass. But, I actually don't remember how this one tastes. So, again, if you don't like it and you say, this one tastes like crap, I won't be offended by it. So,
all right, well, let's give her a taste.
Okay.
So...
I don't think this is the tangerine one. I think this is a straight up mead. I think this is a straight up mead.
Yeah, this does. I don't really taste tangerine or citrus or anything, but again, it's that really smooth, like it just goes down.
Yeah, like I said, these are my best ones that I've ever made. I was really, really, really proud of these ones. But that's kind of how whenever we sat down to make stuff, that's kind of how we always did it. We were just like, recipes? No. Are we going to write this down? No. Let's just wing it and see what happens. A lot of times it turned out pretty good. Sometimes we've had some stuff that was like turpentine,
Yeah, I was going to say, I've reached a point in my my painting journey with the miniatures where I, several years ago, realized, I need to start writing down what colors I use because, if I paint something for an army and then, a couple of years later want to go back and add something to that army, it's like, oh, shit, which colors did I use?
I've experienced that with my Battletech minis.
Yeah, so...
years later, I'll buy a Battletech mini, I'll be like, oh, I want to add this to my army, but I don't remember what colors I used, and... Were they Games Workshop paints? Were they Vallejo paints?
Oh yeah, that's the thing
is
I had some miniatures I painted really early with Games Workshop paints, and those Games Workshop paints don't even exist anymore because Games Workshop constantly cycles in and out colors and stuff. So it is a challenge. Funny story also. One of the greatest controversies about the prop community is the props from Aliens. What color are they painted? Because in the movie everything looks green.
Yeah.
However, from people who were on the set and people who built the models, they will tell you that no, everything was painted with this old model paint called Brown Bess, which was a brown color paint, but just with the lighting and with the camera, it all came out green. The company that made Brown Bess ceased to exist. So the color was gone for the longest time. And guys have been trying to replicate it and to get... So it's like if you're going to replicate an alien's prop, do you want it to paint so it looks like the green that it does on the screen, or do you want it to paint to look like the color of what the item actually was?
But you would think now with color match technology, because you can walk into Home Depot with something and be like, what's this color? And they can scan it, and they can tell you what paints to match and mix it with.
Except on the film, everything looked green.
Well, yeah, that happened on Star Trek, too, because the original color of the Enterprise was actually, I believe it was it wasn't eggshell, it was like a blue kind of color.
Yeah.
But because of the lighting and the filming and all those kinds of things, it changes the color out.
So here's the thing. There is a company called Archive X Paints. And this company specifically has been reformatting paint colors that were used on, like, Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And they came out with a Brown Bess. So I ordered a bottle of it.
Is it acrylic?
Yeah, it's an acrylic paint. So
okay.
It's just like all the airbrush miniature paints I have. But I'm painting for Stargrave, my Aliens vs. Predator miniature game. I have the Power Loader miniature. And I want to paint that with Brown Bess to see how it turns out. Hopefully to then eventually paint my Cheyenne dropship. But they also do, like, acrylic sets for, like, if you want to paint your Millennium Falcon models and paint it to the exact studio colors. They also have model sets to do, like, X-Wings, and it's all the color pigments they used for the original X-Wing paints. They do some cool stuff, so I'm looking forward to getting that in the mail in about a week.
I have something I'm going to give you. And because I'm probably never going to use it, and if I do need it, I can just borrow it back from you. I have a scale model. It's about the same size as the miniatures that we use to play Stargrave or Warhammer. That was 32 millimeter.
28 or 32.
Yeah. It'd probably be better with the 32, but I have the troop transport from Aliens.
Oh, the APC?
I have that.
Nice.
It's I have a it's a resin one, but it's just collecting dust, so I'll give it to you. It needs to be repainted, and it's going to need some TLC.
Oh, that's okay. I can do that, but hold on. I got to take a break for a second.
Should I close my eyes?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, like, I already have it in my hand.
Okay.
So the reason I wanted to get you over to record today was I have two things, actually, to give to you. And I wanted to get a chance because you like to be surprised.
Yeah, I'm curious now. I can't see what's going on the other side of the monitor.
All right. So this is something I picked up when I was at the Michigan GT a couple of weeks ago. They do a swap meet there, and I picked up in a random box of stuff.
Ooh. Oh, this is the old FASA Star Trek Starship Combat Miniatures game.
From Starfront, or was it Starfrontier? No, not Starfrontier.
No, it's the Star Trek Combat Simulator.
Yeah.
Which I loved that game. I used to play that. God, I played that game so much.
Prime Directive, that's what they called it, because they couldn't call it Star Trek.
Actually, yeah, they had two different versions of it. There was Star Trek. There was the Starfleet Combat Simulator, and then later on, when they did get the rights to it, it was just called Starship. Starfleet something.
Starfleet Battles, I think.
Yeah, because when they got the rights to it was when Wrath of Khan came out, and because I have the Reliant at home, I have a few of these, and the books are really hard to find. I have the whole game on PDF. I'd be dying to play it again, but now when I look back on it, and I look at the rules, it seems a lot more complicated than it did when I was younger. Wow, this is really freaking cool. You know, I know why you got me this, because you've been into my spare room upstairs, and you've seen all of the models I have of all of my Star Trek and Star Wars ships.
Well, I saw that, and I was like, I got to get that for real.
Yeah, this is really cool. I like this a lot. This is neat. This is really badass. This is 3D printed. This isn't one of the original ones, I don't think. But it doesn't matter. Yeah. I don't care.
I don't know if it's 3D printed or it's resin cast. It's got a little bit of flex to
Yeah,
it.
it's got a flex and it's got that roughness that 3D printing sometimes leaves, you know? But either way, I don't
I was
really
going to say,
care.
yeah, I don't, because if it was resin, it wouldn't have the flex. But if it was printed, it would have the lines on it, and I don't really see the layer lines on it.
Yeah, but it feels like it's that way,
Yeah.
you know? That's the thing about 3D printers, because you've got the resin ones and then you've got the coil ones. Like you've got two of them now. You've got how long have you had two of these printers now?
Since early summer.
I didn't realize that you had two of the what are the ones with the coil on them? What are those called? Those,
FDM.
yes, you have two FDM ones and you have three resin printers.
No, I have two resin printers
and a dryer, a
and
hardener.
yeah.
A hardener.
I actually got the second FDM printer off Facebook Marketplace for $200.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a steal because it's the exact same model as my other one, so they're the same. It's just this one, he actually did upgrades on it.
I see that. It's got a better screen on it.
Yeah, it's got a whole new control board. It came with a Raspberry Pi, and I still haven't had a chance to get it set up perfectly.
I'll say this again. We need to go through the dungeon down here and really clean and reorganize this place. And
yeah, it's things got a little hairy over the last month or two. While Sammy's health was declining, and I wasn't getting into stuff. But yeah, definitely, it's to the point where like even I'm like things need to be cleaned.
yeah,
And reorganized. Now on that subject, so
I'm afraid to touch this thing because I don't want to break it.
also, a few weeks ago, I had an uncle who was in the hospital, and he had asked my mom for some books to read. And he was a airborne army, so he's a military guy. He's a gun guy. He and I get along pretty well. So I was looking through, and I pulled out some of my military history books. But I was looking through for some older stuff that had been on the shelf for a while. It was from my private collection of books. And I found a book I didn't even know I had.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, 100%. I have no recollection of where I picked this book up from. I have no recollection of how long I had it. It would have to have been on that shelf at least since I moved the bookcase down here to the basement. So we're talking 2014, 2015. And it was called What Do You Do with a Drunken Sailor? And it is a history of sea shanties and like where their meanings and like the history of the actual songs came from. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, super interesting book. I'm a little mad at myself. I've been hiding it for this long and I haven't read it.
You do have one of the most unusual libraries I think I've ever seen.
Well, we're getting into that because there was a book I've mentioned here on the podcast once or twice in passing, and I don't know if you remember it, but I found it. And
oh my God, Secrets of the Ninja.
this is what I brought you over here to see.
My God.
Believe it or
Oh my God.
Believe
this
it or
reminds
not.
me of when I was a little kid in elementary school. Like, ninjas are cool.
my mother-in-law bought that book because she would buy books at estate sales and buy just like books by the bundle. She collected religious books and like books on the saints and all that, and somehow this book wandered into her collection, and I was like, I'm just gonna take this. If you look, there's actually, I believe, a devotional like prayer sheet in there as a bookmark.
I think I might have checked this book out from the library when I was a kid. How old is this?
Oh my God! So, and it's a just plain black and white book about like the secrets of the ninja techniques and like how there's techniques in there for like throwing stars and like how to climb a wall. It's like, oh yeah, I could totally be
1981.
I could totally be a ninja from reading this book.
I would buy this book just to have it for my library.
So yeah, 100%. I knew I had this book. I just couldn't remember where the hell it was, and when I was looking, I finally found it. So I brought
Art of Hiding. The art of hiding is an integral part of the ninjutsu system. It simply means that one must take advantage of every possible object, natural as well as man-made, to conceal oneself. Impu gave rise to the legends of the ancient ninja could vanish at will. This is where I throw down a small smoke ball, poof, and then I vanish. If I were in a Godfrey Ho movie, I would have the headband that says ninja across it, so you know I was a ninja. Foremost among the precepts of Inpu is the abomination. I'm sorry, my eyes aren't working right now. Abolition to avoid unnecessary movement. This reminds me of the Monty Python skit, How Not to Be Seen.
Right.
When someone would stand up and they would blow up.
Right.
Mr. Wilson has learned the first secret of how not to be seen. This is funny as hell. Wow.
Yeah, so I had to get you over here, and I had to get your blind reaction to this on the podcast.
Hysterical. This is great. Yeah, I would totally buy this if I saw this at a yard sale or something, just to have it.
Oh, it's glorious. I mean, because it is 100% like as deadly as a car crash.
I really think I checked this book out of the library when I was a kid.
I was going to say, as serious as a car wreck. Like this is not pulling punches. This is not satire. This came out in the same like era as like the Anarchist Cookbook or the Garage James Bond. Like those were kind of the glory of,
I love how there are diagrams of people hiding in a barrel and hiding under a desk while there's a guy walking into a room with a knife smoking a cigarette. Here, I will show you. Look at this picture.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. Oh, and you got it. The guy who has the knife and the cigarette totally has, like, the Han Solo vest, a belt buckle.
Yeah, he looks like basic white bitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
oh my
like...
God. Or the guy standing up next to the black wall with a ski mask on who looks like an Israeli, like a terrorist or something.
Oh, yeah, total IRA vibes going on there.
Absolutely. How to open a door like a ninja? Entering door, figure 93. When confronted by a closed door, approach its latch side. Press your body to the wall next to the jab. Slowly open the hatch using the right hand and peek inside. This is actual instructions of how to be a ninja opening a door. Inside through the aperture this provided. Place the left hand on the wall near the shoulder and be prepared to push off and escape should you draw attention. In just 3 short weeks, you too can be a ninja for reading this book.
Can open a door like a ninja.
I just love the diagrams in here.
And the art, like the photographs are great.
Sensory removal, how to sneak up behind somebody with a knife. How much of this have you looked at?
Oh, I've flipped through it. I love that it's pre-cell phone, so there's always that meme that goes around about like how to take out a sentry, and it's like wait till he's checking Facebook on his phone and then come up and knife him. Ah,
there it is. Our Lady of Lourdes.
Oh, yep, there it is.
The Catholic devotional. Who did you get this from? Your aunt? Is that what you said?
No, my mother-in-law.
Oh, your mother-in-law? So your mother-in-law was a Catholic ninja in disguise.
Well, she was supposed to be a nun for a while, so... Oh my God.
Ninja nun.
Where there is an MST3K movie, and I forget which one it is, but there's like some secret kung fu nuns, and they're at a hospital, and there's a guy who's under guard at the hospital, and there's this like fat Italian guy who's supposed to be watching them, and the nuns like take him out with a blow dart.
I will find that movie. I will find that movie for Cinema Labad.
Oh, so good.
My God, this is hysterically bad. This is just... I feel like I'm holding a Godfrey Ho movie in my hand.
Oh, yeah, like 100%. Like,
oh, I definitely checked this book out from the library. I remember this picture where it shows... I did. I checked this book out from the library when I was a little kid. Because I remember this picture of a guy trying to climb a wall using his ninja sword as a step to go up the wall.
Well, I was going to say, with this, too, we can learn the techniques needed to fight Dragon Sound.
Oh, my God. Dragon Sound. The Miami Connection. That comes up because now that I do the whole bad movie thing and I've gotten really entrenched in it, there's a whole bunch of different TikToks and Facebook groups and Discords and all these different things for blemished gems movies, or as we'll call them, as my friend Joe likes to refer to them as. And the Miami Connection just repeatedly comes up over and over again. Have you seen Miami Connection? I'm like, yeah, too many times. Yeah.
Seen it? I have the soundtrack.
Yeah, and I've actually said that. I'm like, yeah, my buddy has the soundtrack to this movie, which has actually come up many times on the Discord channel when we're watching movies. I'll be like, this is a movie that John probably has the soundtrack to.
Oh my god,
So, give me your cup.
I love the fact that the soundtrack album. First of all, it's on cocaine white vinyl.
Cocaine white.
Second of all, there is actually a karaoke version of Fight the Ninja. So you can sing along.
Against the ninja.
Yeah, against the ninja.
God.
Or I was going to say, if we ever need to fight a samurai cop, we have ninja skills now that we can use to fight the samurai cop.
We did rewatch Samurai Cop 2 a couple of weeks ago, and it was just... Oh, wait a minute. That was yours.
Yeah, that one's mine.
This is the Pear Spice Girl, which is not actually... It doesn't taste quite like... It does taste like pear, but it doesn't, so...
Which is good, because I don't really care for
I'm not
pear.
a pear fan either. I hate pears, but this actually turned out pretty well. You'll understand when you drink it. It doesn't have that. You know how when you bite into a pear, it feels like it's dry on your tongue or whatever? It doesn't have that because all of that fermented out of it. There is a pear taste to it, but it's a very sweet flavor, which is something that pears really don't have to them.
Right.
I believe we use regular pears, and I was on a whim. I'm like, let me put some Asian pears. And Dave was like, Asian pears? I'm like, yeah, let me put some Asian pears, because I actually like Asian pears. They're not like, they taste different.
I, too, like Asian pears, Basil. Twins!
But of the three, this is probably my least favorite of the three. It's still good, but it just doesn't,
I think if I had to go with my ranking would definitely put apple butter mead at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're all like they're sipping. You don't sit and drink like you sip these. They're not,
100%.
But they are sweet. They are very sweet, but they're not overpowering.
And that's
sweet.
the thing, like with bourbon, I'll usually put either like a single ice cube or a little bit of water just to mellow it. But like this, you don't even need the water to mellow it.
I think it's
good.
because it's aged.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why. Like aging a mead does a lot for it. We actually have another bottle at home. We called it Grog. And whatever we were done bottling stuff, if we had a little bit left over, we would just put it in this bottle. And this bottle's probably got about 17 different kinds of different meads in it. And there's only a little bit left. And surprisingly, it's really good, but I didn't bring it with me this time. So, and it's just, we just called it Grog because back in the day when you would go into, a tavern or something like that, the cheapest thing they would offer would be the Grog. And it was literally what was left over from all of the beer bottles or whatever. They would just throw it all together and that would be the cheapest thing you could buy.
That is actually not the origin of Grog.
What is the origin of Grog?
Grog is what they would give at sea as a rum ration. And it would be 2 parts water, 1 part rum. Because the water had to sit in barrels the whole journey, so it would give bacteria, but the rum added to it would A, take out the alcohol content of the rum, and B, it would kill,
the water.
It would sanitize the water. So that,
I believe your definition far more than I believe mine, because it makes more sense.
Funny enough, they mentioned it in the book on sea shanties. But yeah, that was the British Navy rum ration. Was you would get 2 cups of grog a day, and that they did the rum ration. God, I want to say until like the 60s or the 70s. Like you still got as a British sailor a ration of alcohol every day.
What is the Highlanders grog that I know? There's something called Highlanders grog, and I don't know if it's a beer or something. There was a local brewery that made it, I believe, and it's stuck into my head. So, anyways.
So are you willing to talk about another obsession rabbit hole I fell down the other day?
Okay.
God, I don't even know where I started on this. I think I was doing something else, and I was looking for a song on my Spotify. And there was a song I had on a playlist. And then I noticed when I looked at it on my computer that it was grayed out, that the song no longer existed on that playlist, and I hadn't noticed. And the song was called The Engineer's Hymn by Billy Boyd. And it is a song about being an engineer on a starship.
What?
No, how does it go? No, all right, damn it. Now I'm going to have to look it up.
Would you like the phone a friend?
So here's the
different game show.
So this is the song, but this is not the version I had on my playlist.
You're leaving that in the show, right?
Probably. This is by another artist called Leslie Fish.
Oh Lord, thou hast made this world the shadow of a dream, and thought by time I treated so, except through the ion stream. From coupler flange to spindle guide, I see thy hand, O God, predestination in the stride of yon connecting rod.
It's not that bad of a song.
Yeah.
I was expecting Star Trek kind of sounding, but it's not.
The captain rolls upon the bridge, and I reign here below. He sends his orders down the line, and I'm pleased to have it so. For though his word be iron law, as ancient rules decree, I know what truly moves this ship are my engines, Lord, and me. I know the seas are very, very wide, and the ship in truth is small, and those who dwell within her hide I care for one and all.
See, it makes a lot of references to ocean, though. It doesn't sound like it's a Starship song, except for the ion stream.
I take it for a sacred trust, and they rarely understand.
So where are you going with this? Did you find a series of Starship songs or something?
Oh, the rabbit hole goes so much deeper, my son.
So there's a whole line of Starship shanties.
Yes.
Behold these purring engine hearts that keep the ship alive. I know them doomed to their atoms parts, that I and mine may thrive. And fools they be who fail to see why I hold my engines dear. For the engine room is a temple raised to the god of the engineer.
I feel like I should be drinking Klingon ale or something.
Right.
Or Klingon blood wine, Romulan ale. Or synthahol.
Oh Lord, thou hast made this world.
Every time I hear that part, I keep waiting for "Won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz?"
Right?
Time I treated so,
Oh, yeah.
Except through the ion stream. From coupler flange to spindle guide, I see thy hand, O God, predestination in the stride of yon connecting rod.
You gotta play the whole song?
Yeah, there's like 5 seconds left. So, there's a couple songs. Let's see. There's one other one. There's a whole song just for Bones. Ah, yeah, here it is.
Oh, I could have worked on a research staff. I could have been stationed on the sea, or dug a cozy niche in diseases of the rich, but that wasn't good enough for me. Oh no, I was tired of the land of diseases that were bland, and some troubles that I didn't care to face.
This
Now
is a
I
Starship
wake
song
each
too?
morning to the intercom's warning, and I wonder why I ever went to space.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's aches and pains and wounds and sprains and a space-borne plague or two. So I'll do my best, I'll run another test and pour myself another mug of brew. Now I serve a starship's crew with a million things to do and a headache that I really can't afford. And some crewman's got a pet that I haven't studied yet. Well, at least I must admit I never bored. Half the calls I receive, Mayo Clinic won't believe. I get sex lives of the birds of Altair 5. I get fungus that eats glass, I get boils on the ass, and I somehow get the crew back home alive. Oh, there's aches and pains and wounds and sprains
you heard this at a Renaissance festival, unless you stopped and really paid attention to what she was singing, you'd be like,
I get
huh?
cycles running loose, I get alien vegan moose and hallucinogenic mists upon the breeze. I get pyro plagues from Mars and neurotics from the stars. Tell me, what am I supposed to do with these? But when the battle's won, when the Russian war is done, and I got some time to wonder why I'm here, when I weigh the life that's mine against the one I left behind, what the hell, I guess I'll stay another year. Oh, there's aches and pains and wounds and sprains and a space-borne plague or two. So I'll do my best, I'll run another test and pour myself another mug of brew. Thank you, have one too.
So, these were songs from the early 90s from a genre of music that was called Filk, F-I-L-K, which was supposed to be a bastardization of fan folk music. So you got to remember, like, early 90s, this is like very early internet days. Mm-hmm. And these are guys and women who would write these songs about all of our favorite things and go to conventions and sing them and perform them. I found Filk music not like, I would say like late 90s, early 2000. We're talking AOL internet days or like just the beginning of Napster. And the song that I found, actually it was my friend Bill who played it for me. I don't even remember where he found it. And it was called Rocket Ride. Oh, who sang that? Tom Smith. All right, so this was from the World Steam Expo, and it was like the theme song they did, and it was supposed to be about like the golden age of sci-fi.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Now that we're doing that, I haven't tried. There ain't no living on planet side. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. How many cities crumbled into dust at the first atomic attack? How many self-aware wives and just computers will we have to have? How many supercars will turn to rust cause we don't have a spare jack? Give me technology that we can trust and give it fins like a Cadillac. I want a shining tower of glass and steel, a rubber jumpsuit and a freeze-dried meal. The will to survive, the need to explore, the love of adventure, who could ask for more? I want you, baby, right by my side. Help me get out before my brain is fried. The stars are waiting so big and wide. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride.
So how come we don't ever hear about this stuff anymore? It just died?
Well, we'll get to it.
How many members of the master race will come closing in for the kill? How many xenomorphs will change their face and then hunt us down for a thrill? Give me a villain with style and grace and a little bit of fencing skill. They used to be angular, sneering, and bold. If someone got killed, even they were appalled. They tried to marry the heroine, no fought a race, and they sure as hell knew how to wear a cape. They never tortured, they never lied. They'd honor a promise even when they died. Let's find a villain with professional pride. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. Terminators, life force, robot jocks, predators, that's the things that know how to flans. Defenestrate them out the doors, give me Star Wars, bring back the children of the lens. A puppet master, child's play, Fright Night, Judgment Day, Jason, Freddy, Michael, and Stripe. The Frankenstein, Arthur, and Kong, chase them all the way, the movie snatchers, pods are override. I want more than action and special effects to think about what might happen next. A hero, not a weapon, shot with pecs. And a heroine, not an excuse for sex. Want a bubble helmet manning down my hair. The ground giving way to the open air. The joy and wonder as I head out there. And I know I can have it if I only dare. How many bodybuilding macho jerks will blow everything full of holes? How many imitation Captain Kirks will spill beer on the ship's controls? How many stupid personality quirks will we see instead of souls? Give me my baby and a ship that works, and give us the starring roles. I want to cruise the galaxy in FTL, pursuing heaven and defying hell. I want to do everything that a man can do, and I want to do it all out there with you. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. All the way doing that I haven't tried. There ain't no living on planet side. Come on with me, baby. Louder! Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. All the way doing that I haven't tried. There ain't no living on planet side. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. I know where to run, I know where to hide. Nothing worth doing that I haven't tried. There ain't no living on planet side. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. Come on with me, baby, on a rocket ride. Thank you very much for Steam Expo. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
All right. So my friend Bill played this song for me, and it wasn't this acoustic version of it, but it was an acoustic version of it. And after he had played it for me, I spent a long time trying to find it. And then Napster came along.
Mm-hmm.
And that introduced me to like the whole wider world of Filk. Now, the interesting thing about Tom Smith is he's actually local. He lives in Ann Arbor. So he makes the local con circuits. He's like a semi-regular guest at Penguicon and a couple other local cons. But he was a big name in this. There was Leslie Fish. The Great Luke Ski was another name. These are songs that were kind of like part of the Dr. Demento movement, but like a smaller part of it. And then what happened is this was a genre of like self-made music, like people with just a guitar and recording. And then as recording equipment kind of got like more accessible, like that's when you see like bigger names starting to do weird stuff. And then YouTube took over, and like people doing, like that's when you saw nerdcore hip hop take over and stuff like that. These guys still existed, but they were kind of like almost, I want to say, like a bygone of the analog age. In fact, those two songs I played for you by Leslie Fish, the Billy Boyd versions of them, the earlier ones that I used to have as an MP3 that I don't have on a collection anymore, existed only on a cassette tape recording called Border Patrol, as in Romulan Neutral Zone Border Patrol. And if you don't have an MP3 copy, they just don't exist. So I'm like trolling through all my old files trying to find this. But yeah, I went through a phase where I was just like collecting this music, and this is kind of like a little bit of nerd history. But while I was looking for it, I found in the Wikipedia articles a reference to Filk, a study of shared musical traditions and related phenomenon among fan groups. This was a doctoral thesis written by Solomon H. Davidoff, and it resides in the Bowling Green State University Public Library. You may remember we've referenced the Bowling Green State University because they have the Library of Pop Culture that John Peterson and a bunch of other books have referenced, and they hold a collection of like early fanzines, role-playing material, stuff like that. I reached out to them.
Oh?
And was like, hey, you have this in your collection. I am a podcaster. This is a subject we talk about with Lost Media, I'm not a student of the school. I'm not even a resident of the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
Is there any way I can get access to this? They emailed me back, and they're like, we were actually in the process of digitizing our entire thesis collection. Let me forward your email to our librarian in charge of that and see if it's been done yet.
Oh?
I got the PDF copy of it today.
The PDF copy or?
PDF copy of this. They had scanned it, turned it into a PDF, and I now have it.
Okay.
So this is just one of those weird things that started with me remembering a song, and then it led me down a rabbit hole to a whole genre of music, to somebody who wrote their doctoral thesis on this subject, and I now have it.
Huh. I wonder if you contacted that person and been like, hey, do you want to come out and talk about this?
I've looked them up.
Yeah?
So unfortunately, there is... I'm going to look into the... I haven't
What
read...
a crazy thing to write a doctoral thesis on.
Well, to quote the movie PCU, you can major in Game Boy if you know how to bullshit. In fact, one of my college professors, George Popovich, it was a famous legend that he wrote his doctoral thesis on the impact of science fiction and horror movies.
Well, I can see that. Well, you know what? It makes just as much sense. I was going to say, I can see that from a cultural reference, but that makes just as much sense as what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
So,
so I haven't had a chance to read this yet. It's like 114 pages, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm hoping there's maybe some information, because I found a couple of S. Davidoffs, but every time I look Davidoff, all I get are references to Davidoff cigars. So I've really got to hone my Google foo to see if I can find this person and reach out to them. Because if I can get in touch with them, I'm going
what
to.
were they a doctor of? What's their doctorate?
Again, I don't know. I have the basic information about it. But here, well, you know what? Let's open it.
The university was probably like, wait a minute, you're contacting us about this just as we're doing this?
Yeah. Let's see.
What a strange peculiarity of...
Submitted to the Graduate College of Bowling Green State University in partial fulfillment of a Master's of Arts degree. So my apologies. It was not a doctorate. It was a Master of Arts degrees.
Okay. So that's going to make it a little bit harder to find the person.
Yeah. And it's great because you're looking at this and you can kind of see this was probably written on either an early word processor or something, and then they physically scanned it. But yeah, so I look forward to reading this and having a wealth of information.
You research, well, I can't really say that because I'm known for researching very quirky topics myself, but you do research some very strange and unusually quirky topics in the realm of nerddom. Oh
my God. And I'm amazed this stuff still exists and I'm able to find it. I'm sad I can't find the version of the Engineer's Hymn that I listen to because it's kind of like a touchstone for me, but that song still exists and it's out there. And like I said, that was a whole album of Star Trek songs.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a saved eBay search for that tape to see if hopefully it ever comes up. So before we move on, there's one more song I want to play for you. This was actually on the Dr. Demento, one of the double CDs of the Dr. Demento show. And this was also one of the early gateway drugs I found to this.
Gateway drugs?
Yeah. And it's The Ballad of Optimus Prime by the great Luke Ski.
Oh, I've heard this before. Yeah, it's been a long time, but yeah.
To this planet called Earth came a pacifist being and his clan who taught us things aren't always as has seen. There was no one as wise and courageous and swell as the space hero whose tale I'm about to tell. Took his troops into battle to fight all their foes, leading good against evil, and everyone knows when his back's against the wall and he'd run out of luck, he'd flip his body parts round and change into a truck. Now I'll sing you the ballad of Optimus Prime. He was the greatest transformer there were of all time. He was a big rig, a robot, and a really nice guy. He was proof that a hero's more than meets the eye. Born Orion packs back on old Cybertron. Well, not born, more like built by some darn Quintesson. After a needed upgrade from Alpha Trion, the leadership matrix to him was passed on.
And it's so weird because it really hits on a lot of the like really deep mythology of Autobots.
Vicious gun called Megatron in a space dogfight race to find more energon. It was our ancient planet,
but you never hear about
crashed upon.
Yeah, it was referenced at the end of the song.
Really?
No, not a pond, a pond.
What?
You know, like a bonfire over there.
Oh, there's a bonfire going on over there?
No, wrong universe. Let's just get back to the song.
Bar.
Oh, damn.
They were brought back online in 1984, reconfigured to blend in with Chevys and Fords, fighting evil on Earth through this credo they stick. It's freedom for all beings and avoid parking tickets. Prime fought Megatron many times, and it rocked. As a pistol, he was always going off half-cocked. And when Prime's fisticuffs had been taken its toll, and he'd shove his long barrel up Prime semicolon. Now that's what I call taking it up the tailpipe.
Oh, Luke, that pun was so bad it makes me want to throw myself into the Grand Canyon.
So that would make you a cliff jumper?
Oh, geez, one more like that and I will blast you from here to the Loch Ness.
Well, that's a grim lock. Oh, come on, Earl, you're a Filk star. You can handle it.
Luke, it's enough to make any star scream.
Authentic
Filk
fools!
Yep.
There is no escape! Then in 2005, they fought their final bout.
Gonna have bad,
With his last
Starfleet.
ounce of strength, he knocked Megatron out. On his deathbed, poor Optimus Prime there was laid, just so Hasbro could sell the new toys they had made. Then the optics went dim on that great space invader. Spike cursed to the skies, but it was edited later. The new prophesized leader, Hot Rod, he was chosen. We wanted John Wayne, and they gave us Judd Nelson. Now I'll sing you the ballad of Optimus Prime. He was the greatest transformer there were of all time. He was a big robot and a really nice guy. He was proof that a hero's more than meets the eye. Hot Rod versus Galvatron.
And now you have the Cybertron
ain't
band.
quite the same.
Oh yeah,
Even
Cybertronic's
those who
great.
loved them thought it was comparatively lame. So we mourned for the deaths of our brave fighting robots. The alternative? Go home and play with some GoBots!
No!
Not Leader 1!
Oh, my-
Turbos!
Johnny
I
couldn't
killed
sell
that
anything
stupid
because
thing!
that's
Oh
not
my
good. They had to
god!
make
Unicron, kill me
Oh,
now!
Go
I believe GoBots came out first.
Resurrected by forces they don't understand. A powerful hate plague they call fan demand. From his grave ship soon, Optimus Prime Man arose to save us from lame toys with lamer kids shows. Those headmaster beast machines might confuse me, but with Prime back in charge, it's all good, you'll agree. Now immortal, his red and bold chassis is seen on DVD, eBay, and Toy Fair magazine. Now I'll sing you the ballad of Optimus Prime. He was the greatest transformer there were of all time. He was a big rig, a robot, and a really nice guy. He was proof that a hero is more than meets the eye. Autobots, transform and roll out.
I have a bunch of old issues of Toy Fair laying at home
Oh, yeah.
storage. I have some Fangora. I have some Starlog magazines. That's what I should do. I should bring those over for you.
Oh, dude, Cinefex was always my favorite.
Might have a couple of those, too.
Now, I will say, thankfully, a lot of these artists are still around, and they're on Bandcamp.
Yeah, that's a good place for them.
So yeah, like you can still buy their music if you like it. You can still give these people money and support them making art. There's one thing I know you wanted to talk about.
Oh, the Highlander movie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's oh my God, how am I forgetting his name right now? You got to
Henry
edit
Cavill.
Yeah, edit that out.
You know I'm totally not going to.
I can't believe I can't. I for whatever reason I just couldn't believe I just forgot it. Which is weird because we just watched the season 3 of The Witcher a couple of days ago.
Hey man, I spent 10 minutes at work the other day trying to come up with the word clipboard. Like, I am trying to describe that this piece of paper that my boss is looking for.
I know, and you feel like you're having a stroke when you're trying to come up with it. You just can't come up with the word.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Henry Cavill, because apparently now that Henry Cavill has left The Witcher, which really was the only real reason to watch the show, in my opinion, because they were gonna do a season 3 with somebody else, and they've since come out and said no, we're not going to do it. So that was apparently the last season of The Witcher. I could be wrong on this. By all means, go out and research, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. But Cavill, as probably everybody at this point knows, is that they're going to go on and do the Highlander movies.
So yeah, that's one of the several projects he's currently attached to. Is that I believe it's going to be a complete reboot of the franchise?
Well, the plan is, from everything that I have read, is they want to make the one movie into 3 movies. And it sounds like what they want to do is one movie will be him as the young Highlander learning what he is, and then where that will end is where the Sean Connery character will show up. And then the second movie will be him learning about how to fight, become the Highlander. And then in the last movie will be the end of the movie of the Highlander movie. But at the same time, it's going to be it's going to be telling both stories of him, Connor, and the Kurgan as well. It's going to be referencing what they're doing in life and how they interact with one another.
Oh my God!
And they said that they want to do a much better job of telling the story, and they have no plans of making Highlander 2, the Highlander 2,
Oh God, the Highlander that shall not be named.
Yeah, they want to concentrate on doing a more in-depth version of the first movie and stretch that out into 3 movies and give it more body behind it and more story. And they're going to use the original Queen music.
Well, yeah, that was non-negotiable.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I just realized, we need somebody to play Juan Ramirez. So we need an older-looking guy who's fairly dashing and can pull off the sword fights. So why the hell can't we have Clancy Brown play that?
That would be a good choice.
Oh my God, I just thought about that. That would be amazing. We have Clancy Brown.
Like Sean Connery was supposed to be a Spaniard, but you're like, nah.
No, he was Egyptian.
Yes, which is even worse.
yeah, but he's Scottish.
I'm a Scottish Egyptian, but I'm actually
I am the what was he, like the principal
Peacock.
The principal metallurgist to the King of Spain. I'm Egyptian and I talk with a Scottish accent. And then there's Christopher Lambert, who is Scottish but can't talk with a Scottish accent because he's French.
The only thing that I'm worried about is you have a situation like you had with, well, a great example, Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Channel, where that didn't need to be that long, where they take a story and make it unnecessarily long by adding a lot of fluff into it that doesn't need to be there.
That is an epidemic in just media. I can't even say Hollywood. When
they took The Hobbit and stretched it out into 3 movies,
that's
what I'm worried about.
Even in Games Workshop, they're writing the end of the Horus Heresy novel series, so they're actually writing the book series on the Siege of Terra. And it was supposed to be, I think, 6 books, but it was 6 books, then it was 5 novellas that take place between the 6 books, and then the last book is coming out in 3 volumes.
See,
and I fucking hate it because I'm listening to these books on audiobook, and I'm like, this is fucking boring. There's just so much filler. Like, this is exactly what happened with Revenge of the Sith. It was, you spent so much time dicking around in the first two movies that by the time you got to the third movie, it's like, oh shit, we got to wrap up all these plot points.
Revenge of the Sith really was the best of the prequels.
Mm-hmm. And even that had dumb filler in it.
Oh yeah, it did. But I'm not like, there's not a doubt in my mind that both of the, like, Cavill and the director, like, they really are Highlander fans, and I do really believe that they want to do it justice and they want to do it right. But to take that one movie and stretch it out into 3 movies, it can be done right, but it's like, there's also a lot of room for potential screw up. I mean,
it's the same thing. Like, there are some properties,
or like the Justice League extended version that we really did not need.
Yeah. But by the same token, then you look at Dune, which was arguably a book that needs to be multiple movies, and now that they're doing it as that, I think it's damn near perfect.
But the thing is, Dune was already a book that was written. Highlander was a movie that was created. It wasn't based off of a book, really, not that I know of. So, there's enough material in Dune to be able to do that and do it justice without adding the fluff.
Well, and if you count the Highlander TV show, there is a whole wealth of, like, world building that went into that. Like, Highlander, in my opinion, like, the first movie stands by itself as like a damn near perfect movie.
Yeah,
The TV show became a good continuation of that.
See, I never cared for it, but then again, I didn't want to. I didn't need it.
Towards the end, it got really weird. Like the whole Dark Quickening storyline, and
don't even remember it.
And then the spin-off show that was like The Raven. None of that was that great, but like the first couple of seasons of Highlander were really good TV. I've rewatched them recently.
Here's a question that I legitimately do not know the answer to this. Were there ever any female immortals or female Highlanders?
Yes.
Were there? Okay, because I don't recall ever be that many.
In fact,
so if they were to put a female in the new Highlander movies, do you think that would be, to rip off on the new South Park episode, which, by the way, is fantastic, the Panderverse, if they were to put a female in the movie with the backlash of all the pandering and stuff like that, do you think that would hurt the movie, or would they be able to say, well, no, females have always been a part of Highlander?
In fact, the spin-off show, The Raven, was about a female Highlander.
Okay, see, I never watched any of those, so...
God, I can't remember the character's name, but she was actually, like, one of Duncan's, like, love interest / feuding partners, and she was, I think, she was older than Duncan too, and almost took his head on a couple of occasions. But yeah, there were multiple female immortals in the TV show. It was just, I think, in the movie, but I mean, even in the Highlander movie, you only saw 5 immortals.
See, what they could do then is they could pull from those, because I know the television shows did answer a lot of questions that people had. Well, what if a person dies this way? Or what if an immortal loses their head in a car crash? Where does the quickening go to? There's a lot of stuff that they could pull to answer, to put that stuff in the movies.
Because there were even instances of immortals being killed by humans. And I think there was I don't remember if this was actually in an episode or if this is something we were thinking of in a fever dream, where it's like an immortal who took heads by using like a shotgun at point blank range.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I think that was just us like spitballing ideas. But there was even like a couple of like child immortals who were in the show.
See, I can see. I don't have a fear that I don't think they're doing it just as a money grab. I really think that they really do cherish and respect the story, and they want to do it justice. But if you're talking about making 3 movies out of 1 movie, there's a lot of room for things to go bad. Yeah, and I'm scared about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of and I have more respect for if you start out at the beginning, hey, we're going to do 3 movies. And we're going to tell the story, and there's a beginning and middle and an end, and these movies are going to do that, than if you just we're going to do 1. We got money for a sequel, we'll do a sequel.
Well, that was kind of what they did with Dune. Like they said, we're putting this one out there, but we want to do this many movies. We're going to see how this one does first.
No,
So-
it was always on paper. Because, like,
Yeah, but if the first Dune didn't do any good, they wouldn't have made the other ones.
no, because they were doing production on it when it was in pre-production
Mm-hmm.
when the movie was still in theater. Like, because
Now, Dune's only 2 movies, right? They're not
Yeah.
doing 3 movies? Okay.
so here's what I think.
Because I know there's talk of continuing the story.
Yeah, that is definitely the thing, is that we may see them do Dune as 2 movies, and then we may see them. What's the second
God,
Dune?
Emperor Dune, and then Children of Dune.
No, God Emperor of Dune's the last.
That's
one.
okay. So it's Children of Dune, then God, Emperor
I
Dune.
think it's Dune Messiah is the second book.
Yes.
So yeah,
It
like
is.
Dune
Because
Messiah.
Sci-Fi Channel did the second series. And it was actually pretty good.
No, they only did Dune.
Well, they combined the 2. They
Yeah.
did Dune, and then they did the other one, which was a combination, because it combined the last 2 books. And at the end, Leto was running through the desert, getting ready to turn into God, Emperor
Yeah,
Dune.
so it was they did Dune, and then they did Children of Dune.
Yeah, that's
which
what it was.
I don't think it told the complete story of Dune Messiah, but I think it told parts
It
of the
led
story.
into it, because that's where it ended was him running through the desert. He had just put the sandworms on him to start covering him.
Yeah.
And it was just him running through the desert, and his sister was telling the remainder of the story. And that's where it ended, with him running across the desert to eventually turn into it. And that was where they left it. A lot of people give the Sci-Fi Channel movies grief, but I didn't think they were that bad.
I think I have them on DVD.
Oh, really? Because
I do.
Yeah, I'd love to watch them again.
The costumes stand out as kind of the most garish part of them.
That, and like the part where they were on Caladan, they don't really do a whole lot of ocean stuff. There's just a lot of like stuff in the background with a bunch of water in it, like that implies that there's a lot of water
Right,
on that
right.
planet. But those ones also had the banquet scene where he meets the Emperor's daughter, which was deleted from the other movies.
Well, no,
So-
it's just that will be in Dune Part 2.
Yeah, they've already said they're going to do that.
Well, yeah, because
So-
in fact, if you saw the trailer, you get to see Christopher Walken as the Emperor.
Yeah, he looks badass.
Oh, I know.
So I'm very much looking forward to it. But as far as Highlander goes, I'm willing to give it a shot, but I am admittedly very nervous because, that's one of those, that's like Highlander to me. Those movies are sacred.
Yeah.
They're sacred cows to me. And if they do make them and they're shit, oh well, somebody will like them, and that's, if you like them, that's fine. I'm not saying you're a bad person if the movie comes, because I don't laugh at people that like the last Justice League movies either. But I'm a little nervous about it. I mean, I'm happy with the people that are involved, but there's the potential for it to go bad is like, ooh. Careful.
However, I was going to say, however, if you tell me you like Ghostbusters, answer the call. I am going to question your tastes.
I don't even know what that is.
That was the all-female Ghostbusters.
Oh no, that's like Highlander too. It just doesn't exist in my world. It's just not.
The sad thing is,
It's not even that it was females. It was just done stupid.
The script was terrible. The
Yeah.
script was absolutely terrible. Every woman who's in that is freaking hysterical. I love most of them in all their other properties.
Yeah.
Leslie Jones hosted The Daily Show as they're like going through like looking for the new host, and her run was hysterical. She was great on that, but it's just the script of that movie was not good, and the way they did the special effects was more like cartoony than it was. They forgot.
I think Dan Aykroyd had said something about that. He was politely being like, "Yeah, they could have done a bunch of things differently for budget and blah blah."
Yeah, it was definitely a different tone.
Mm-hmm.
They were going for more like a Mel Brooks style movie tone, whereas the original Ghostbusters was a scary movie that just had comedic moments in it. Like, it was not intended to be a comedy. It was almost supposed to be, I forget.
It was a horror comedy.
Yeah, a dark comedy is what they called it at the time.
And that's why I like the last Ghostbusters movie, because you could tell that it had the same feel and the same vibe, and they did it right. They brought the characters, they paid tribute to them in the right way.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I wish they would have done, like with the last Star Wars movies. But and the sequel for the trailer for the new sequel is already out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that just came out yesterday, and it actually looks pretty good.
Now I don't know if the old guys are going to be in that one either.
Yes, because in the trailer there's a scene where they show them at Ray's occult.
Yeah.
And I know it says Ernie Hudson is in the movie, but
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing him. But you saw Dan Aykroyd, you saw Bill Murray, Patton Oswalt makes an appearance because and anything to keep Patton Oswalt working.
Oh yeah. And see, the thing I liked about that movie as well is they serve, like, their characters, they were more of as an advisory to the next generation coming along.
It wasn't like, it's like they were literally there just to pass the torch.
Yeah, and that kind of, it would seem right for the next movie. Like, hey, we don't know how to handle this. Can you guys give us some advice? And they'd be like, well, yeah, do this, this,
like
and that. Or,
we're in our 70s. Don't expect much of us.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, hey, we've done all we can. Can you give us, well, maybe try this, this, and this, and then the kids go off and save the day, and, the older guy's, okay, I'm going back to my shop or whatever,
Yeah,
and that's fine. That's the way it should be done.
Mm-hmm. And
it's not disrespectful, and it still gives the new people, the new story time, room to evolve. And it is, by the third movie, they probably won't be in it as much or whatever. It'll be the new, the new generation. Right. And that's the way it should be.
I'm looking forward to it. Sadly, man, it just seems like everything that's coming out is just a rehash.
It's always been that way, though.
Yeah.
Like, I was having this conversation, we were doing movie night the other night with the Cinema Labatt on the stream, and there was somebody new that was there. I was a bunch of other people that normally don't watch the movies with us, and we had that conversation about how everything's a rehash or a prequel or a sequel, and I'm like, it's kind of always been that way. There is original movies and there is original content and things like that out there, but you have to go to more of the independent side. Like, recently you watched a movie called Talk to Me, which is, it's a fantastic horror movie. There's another one, No One Will Save You. There's been a lot of really good movies that we've watched, but most of them have come out of independent film houses.
Well, it's
because the big budget studios, they just want to make money. They don't really care.
We all forget that the goal of Hollywood is to make money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to service the fans. It's not to tell stories. We're
not looking for art. We're looking for dollars.
Yes, we are looking for dollars.
Yeah. And they want to cram people into the movie studio, the movie theaters. So those are the movies that they show at the movie theaters, and
right,
like, sideline.
Like, for all intents and purposes, the rom-com is dead
mm-hmm.
because it will never be as profitable as, like, it will never have. No rom-com is ever going to have a $500 million opening weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, right now it's pretty much Star Wars and Star Trek and not Star Trek, but Marvel and stuff. But even that is beginning to start to take a back seat. So
I took my daughter to see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
How was that?
I liked it. It was so. What interests me is the fact that my daughter, after we saw this movie, spent 20 minutes just telling me the entire lore of this video game and the video games and everything, and the differences between the movie and the video games and where the lore changes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it is.
This has this deep background, and they made this movie, and they had to change things in it, but they did it and they made it a compelling movie. I had never played the video games, but it was an enjoyable movie.
Yeah, I know nothing about it myself.
I will say, spoiler alert.
Did it start as a creepypasta or something like that?
I don't know. I don't know. I know there's video games, but
we're the old guys here.
in the
we should have just had your daughter down here and asked her to talk about it.
I might have her do that.
That might not be a bad idea.
Because she wants to come and talk about Coraline. So I told her one of these days we'll record an episode with her. But we're watching the opening credits, and I was like, Matthew Lillard comes up, and I was like, oh, he's the bad guy. And you see him in his cameo, and then it gets to the end of the movie, and then the big reveal is he's the bad guy. And my daughter's like, I never would have guessed that he's the bad guy. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I mean, he's just Shaggy. That's the only thing I ever know him for. I'm like, honey. Oh, one of these days when you're a little older, I'm going to sit you down and watch you some Scream. And I was like, but then I realized, I know him as the serial killer,
mm-hmm.
as in Fruit Loops,
mm-hmm.
because I was introduced to him from Hackers.
But I think where you're going with this is Five Nights at Freddy's is basically a new kind of. It's not a rehash. It's not a sequel. It's something that's fresh.
Right. But actually, where I was going with this is so the trailers They showed the trailer for the Aquaman 2, so I guess that is a thing that's actual.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. They
Yeah.
got way too much money invested into it.
Well, they did in Batwoman or Batgirl, and look what happened to
That's
that.
true. Batgirl was completely axed. I think Blue Beetle, it came and went. I didn't even.
Oh, yeah.
That came and was just out and gone. I'm walking through Walmart. I look over. There's a display of Blue Beetle movies, and I'm like, I feel bad for DC
Yeah.
because they've become so irrelevant. Anyways,
But there is a new movie coming out that does appear to be something new, and that I actually really want to see. It's called Argyle, and it's starring Bryce Howard, Henry Cavill, John Cena. Oh God, who's the guy who played Walter White?
Oh, I know you're talking about. I can't remember his name though.
Oh God, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston's in it. I think Samuel L. Jackson's in it.
Yeah.
And Bryce Howard is a writer who writes spy novels, and it turns out that the spy novels she's written are actually things that happened. So now all these secret agencies are trying to get her because she apparently knows all the secrets, and it just so happens that it's stuff that really happened. And the gag is like they're trying to capture her as she's traveling, and she's got her cat in a cat carrier, and so the cat is dragged along on all the adventures too. But it looks like a good mix of like a over the top action movie, but also kind of that rom-com element. But it's something new.
Yeah, I'm wondering because the writers and the actor strikes have both just ended.
Oh yeah, that's right. SAG strike ended yesterday. So
exactly.
Power to the unions.
And the only superhero movie we've got coming out in 2024, I believe, is Deadpool. Or in 2024, I mean, there's only one. Marvel only has one superhero movie coming out in 2024.
So they probably have more. It's just they probably haven't announced what they're going to be yet.
Well, they're so far behind in production. Plus, the other thing with the big shakeup with going with Marvel, and I'm not going to dwell on this, Marvel finally came to the realization that, like, okay, we're in trouble now. So, like, the first 4 episodes of Daredevil, they're trashing them completely. They're going to go back and rewrite and refilm them completely. Because Feige sat down and finally was like, this isn't working. We have to change this now. So they've come out and said, we're going to go back and emphasize quality over quantity. And they've said that only one movie is coming out in 2024. I believe it's Deadpool. And then after that, there's nothing coming out. And they've also rearranged the schedule. Like, there's the problems with Blade and all this stuff. Anyways, the point I'm going with this is that since you've had all of this time that has passed between the SAG and the Actors Guild and all these things have happened, that there's going to be a glut in entertainment because there's so much that didn't happen there.
Exactly, because, like, even though the strike only went on for, like, 118 days,
That's an eternity.
Yeah, in the production schedule, I mean, you have to realize, like, Hollywood is like one of those giant oil tankers where, like, once it's moving, but if it stops, it is going to take a long time to get it moving again, because it's like you've got to get back all the IATSE people, like all the stagehands. You've got to get back to production.
Like, there were some movies that died. They were filming them overseas or whatever, and those productions ended. So when they ended, they got to put all that equipment somewhere. The actors have to go back home. Again, like you said, it's a big thing to get them up and running. But the independent film studios were all like, yeah, we can do what you guys want us to do with your contract. Boom, okay, we'll do it. And then those independent companies
we're still
making movies.
filming.
So we're going to see a whole bunch of independent movies coming along. You're already starting to see it, like on Netflix and stuff like that. You're going to start seeing a lot of these independent movies coming along, which I think is a good thing. It'll be a nice palate cleanser, because I think we have reached the point where we're at Star Wars superhero burnout at this point, because it was just, they were cranking them out so fast that it just kind of lost the thing.
I was going to say, there's that Netflix, the Zack Snyder Netflix project.
Oh, Moon?
Wandering Moon?
Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon,
which was supposed to be a Star Wars movie, and they went, no, we don't want to do this. And he went, fine, I'll go make my own Star Wars movie, and I'll have hookers and blow.
With blackjack and hookers.
Yeah. And it looks really good.
It does. And
I mean, you could look at it and go, yeah, this was supposed to be a Star Wars movie, but it looks like there's lightsabers in it. It has lightsabers. There's something different, but, when it looks cool, and I'm like, all right, I'll give this a shot, because that's our thing. That's our bread and butter,
Oh, yeah.
So...
And I mean, there's The new season of Invincible's out. I started watching that.
Same here. Yeah.
And then
Gen V's out right now, which is the boys Gen V. Their side off.
Dude, I am so far behind on the boys. I think I've only seen the first 2 seasons.
That's really all I've been watching lately, outside of the bad movie night. Bad movie nights.
I still haven't watched the last episode of Loki.
Oh, this season of Loki's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I tell you what.
But that is Feige and Tom Hiddleston's baby.
Oh yeah.
And you can tell that they really sat down. Like that's the way I want. And it kind of makes me mad because when you watch that, you're like, why can't you guys do this with everything? This is a great story. It's written well. It's told well. It's acted well. The special effects are good. I'll wait for good quality content. Just don't throw stuff like.
Oh yeah, don't just.
I don't care about
throw
Echo.
Spaghetti at the wall to see. I want to say this though: Echo is a character I have like no interest or like knowledge of, but like that trailer, yeah, I'd watch that. Like
yeah,
and I like that they have specifically said that they're going to take a tone with some of these Marvel shows where they are going to exist. But they're not like Moon Knight.
Yeah, they're not tied to anything.
Yeah, it's like...
And they needed to do that.
Yeah,
but the funny thing is I've had to put a list out saying you can watch this without having to watch any other stuff because...
Yeah. It's like they need to be able to tell stories in the Marvel Universe
that are independent
without having to make everything part of the meta plot.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's great you can have touchstone stuff, but, you know, like Moon Knight didn't need to touch on anything else in the Marvel MCU. It was kind of its own standalone story.
The thing I liked about the Netflix shows before they went sideways was they were like, this isn't world-saving stuff. This is street-level problems. These are street-level characters. This is about saving the neighborhood, not the planet. And I was like, okay, I'm on board for that because, you know...
Well, I mean, and that was some of my favorite...
Cloak and Dagger, the old Spider-Man,
those
Daredevil.
were some of my favorites, Marvel titles.
Yeah. Because it doesn't, it wasn't... Not everything needs to be a world-crushing thing.
Exactly.
Like,
it reminds me of the evolution of the disaster genre, where it's like, okay, it went from, like the Towering Inferno and Airplane, where it's like, oh my God, something's happening, but it's happening in this very confined space, and it's we've got to get through this situation. Well, then it went to
and that's kind of what Loki is too. Loki's a confined storyline within that realm.
But then it went to like, oh, there's like Volcano or something where like, oh, there's something's happening and the whole city's in danger, and then it went to freaking Deep Impact and the Core, where it's like, oh my God, the whole planet's gonna be in danger.
Yeah, that's a problem that Marvel's had too, because you had Thanos, and it's like, all right, well, how are you going to top Thanos? You have power creep. The next villain has to be more powerful, which I don't necessarily agree with. It needs to have better storytelling.
Right. I will say one of the things I am in love with about Loki is the ephemera of the TVA. Like having. One of the TikTok people I watch, Props to History, is tied with Earl Hayes Press, which is the company that does like all the printed stuff that exists in movies. Like they are the ones who print all the custom,
newspapers and stuff like that.
Newspapers, like cereal boxes, stuff like that. But like even down to like fake money, or like the bearer bonds from Die Hard. They are the ones that printed all of them. But like every little thing in the TVA, like down to the rotary phones, and they have the specific emblem, like, or the
it's beautiful cinematography.
Right.
Like it has its own style and look.
Not even the cinematography, but set design.
Yeah, all
like
of it.
Those
the colors,
TVA notepads, or when they show the little vacuum tubes and they've got the little work tickets on them. Like those are all hand printed to just be like this background thing, and
but it's that attention to detail to that world that's one of the greatest things about that show, because it submerses you. Like, yes, they go to different timelines, they do all this stuff, but it takes place at that TVA, and they never say where the TVA is ever located. All it is this weird, massive, crazy city, But the whole thing has a very distinct style and look to it.
Exactly.
And it's
got
amazing.
That mid-century futurism.
Yeah. Like you got the Automart, where the room it's just full of key lime pies and stuff. But
Right.
yeah, that's one of the things I was sitting. We were watching it a couple of episodes ago, and I felt like bringing that up to the wife. But my wife's like, I'm. That's why I'm into the bad movies and stuff that I'm into for all that stuff. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, that's just one of the things about this show that makes it so cool is that attention to detail in world building, of which I've gone into many times in the show. Like Dune. Dune is the last Dune movie. Everything about that movie, it's so beautiful and so masterfully done right on down.
There was
Same thing with Aliens,
There was a video I shared to the Old Nerds Drinking Facebook page, but it's a woman I follow who's an architectural historian. And she talked about the architecture of Dune and like how it builds on the design principles of brutalism, which was a design movement kind of out of the Cold War, but also just even the way the buildings are. Like you see in the scene where they're having the conference, there's light coming in, but it's coming down like a shaft. And it's like if you lived on this planet where it was so brutally hot, you wouldn't want windows where wind could blow in and blow out in the hot air. So you would have like these vertical shafts so light could come in, but it wouldn't produce heat with it. And just things like that. Attention.
Well, even the ornithopters were a tribute. They were taking the note off of the old war helicopters.
Right.
It was going on in Afghanistan and stuff. They were trying to get that feel of what all of that was, and it blends together so nicely. But I guess my point is that if you're going to do something like that, like those little details, that like even with Blade Runner and the sequel to Blade Runner, all of those details, you don't think about it, but that adds so much to the movie.
Side note, just in time for Christmas, Lego is coming out with a Masters series. They're like super high-end Lego sets of the ornithopter. It's $164, and it's fucking beautiful.
Like even David Lynch's Dune, as much as I don't like it as much as the new Dune, it still has a very strong feel and its own look and its own everything to it.
I will admit, I love the costumes from that movie.
They're so batshit crazy, but it is cool. You watch this movie, and you're like, this is bizarre, but
And then go even further down the rabbit hole to the Jardowski Dune. That kind of, sort of, almost never happened.
That would have been weird.
Oh my god! I would have loved to have seen it.
That I don't know, man. I'm kind of glad that it didn't come out, because it would have been like, do we go back and try to retouch this again? Because it would have been so bizarre. If you don't know what we're talking about, you can go on YouTube, and there's a whole documentary about Jodorowsky's the Dune movie that was originally supposed to be. And I think it was supposed to have David Bowie in it. Pink Floyd was supposed to do the soundtrack to it.
Pink Floyd was supposed to do all the sound.
Salvador Dali had a lot to do with it.
Salvador Dali was supposed to play the Emperor.
Which would have been bizarre in itself.
Famously, his contract was he was making $1 million a day for his appearances. So, like, his appearances alone almost bankrupted the movie.
Yeah,
it was partially made. There was footage made, but it never got out of production.
Yeah. That's part of what makes a really good. Even some of the bad movies that I watch, some of the weird movies that I watch, like there's definitely movies where you're like, wow, this movie is crazy and weird as it is. It definitely has its own feel and stuff to it and look to it. So. But that's part of good movie making. And I go back to Marvel, and it's just like, why can't you do this with everything? Just take your time and do it right.
You did it so good, and then it just went so bad so fast.
Well, you can tell you can tell the projects that they really care about. It's like, if you're not going to care about it, I don't want something just tossed out there just to make money. If you're going to do it right. Do it like.
Well, and see, the thing is, both can exist, because I mean, like, Shang-Chi was a good movie. Like, I enjoyed it. No,
I didn't, but it's okay if you liked it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really enjoyed it.
I'm not going to laugh at you for liking it.
I loved, like, the martial arts in it. I loved the superhero. I loved that it was the story it told. And then it just never touched back to that ever. And then you had the Eternals. And it's like you had a world-shattering event where literally a head and a hand spewed out of the earth, and it's never fucking talked about in any.
They're going back to that.
But they haven't.
They haven't, but they're going to, because that's where adamantium is supposed to be coming from. Because now that the X-Men are coming, they have to have adamantium because of Wolverine. You know.
But
apparently Tiamat. I think that was called Tiamat.
Tiamat was the Eternal that was.
Yeah.
Or the Celestial that was being born from Earth.
The biggest problem with the Eternals is they tried to do way too much with it. They tried to do way too many characters and do too much stuff with it. And it was just a jumbled mess. And that's another movie where it was like, if you guys had taken your time, you didn't have to have all of the Eternals in the movie. You could have had them come in the sequel. There's so many things that they could have done right. And it's more, I think it was Marvel's attempt at making an art house film, and it's just like, yeah.
And it pisses me off because it was going to set up Kit Harington as the Black Knight, and I really want Kit Harington.
Oh, he's still going to come. He's still coming.
Well, I know,
yeah,
but
he's still on his way.
Yeah, because supposedly he was supposed to appear in the
Moon
Blade
Knight
movie.
Oh yeah, Blade. That's right, Blade. I'm not Moon Knight. I'm sorry, Blade.
Which is also on indefinite hold.
Well, yes and no. From what I understand, they're still doing it. They've pushed the release date. Well, all of the movies had the release date pushed back because of the actor strike and the SAG and all that. But again, I think in the long run, that's a good thing because it gave Marvel and Star Wars a chance to sit down and really say, all right, we don't have to have a movie coming out next month. We got a little bit of time to sit down and take a look at this and see what we're doing. Like Ahsoka. I loved Ahsoka.
Yeah.
The only problem I had with Ahsoka is that if you didn't watch the Rebels, you probably were lost in it. Like when me and my wife watched, I kept going, do you understand what's going on? But she's like, yeah, I get it.
The only thing that I'm upset about with Ahsoka is the fact that Ray Stevens is no longer with us, and he was so good.
He was.
And like I loved his character and just the design of him, even down to he has his own unique fighting style. Yeah, and it's just
that's where I was going with.
We see so much of like the Asian influence fighting style in lightsabers, and he had a very like European sword style fighting. And just to see that duality, that difference in that.
But the cool thing about the show, since we're talking about cinematography and all of these background things, is they used a lot of old samurai movies.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But they still had that, like you said, that fighting style was still, so they had that contrast in there, and they made it work really, really well.
Yeah.
And that was another good Star Wars show. It didn't quite hit 5 stars, but it was good enough.
Let's face it, the Dave Filoni / Jon Favreau is basically just Star Wars done by Akira Kurosawa.
And I'm okay with that.
And I am 100% here for that.
I am very okay with that. Because I've seen pictures side-by-side, scene comparisons.
Oh, yeah, where they've done like almost shot-for-shot homages.
And they did it in The Mandalorian, too, when Ahsoka was on there. And I'm okay with that. I'm like, I'll wait. If you do this right, I'll wait for this.
I was gonna say, and it was just back to back. Andor was so good, and then Ahsoka was so good, and then it's like, what comes next?
Here's the thing that you're not going to like. Andor was supposed to be, I think originally...
It was originally only supposed to be a single season.
No, it was supposed to be multiple seasons. The next season, they were supposed to do, I think, 4 seasons. And each season was supposed to be a year of Andor. Now, the next season they're coming out with, they've said, no, we're only doing 1 more season, and they're going to truncate all of those seasons into 1 episode. So it'll be a couple of episodes in 1 year, a couple episodes the next year. And where it was supposed to end was supposed to be the beginning of Rogue One.
I was going to say, because even in Andor, the first season, like, it was... Every 3 episodes was kind of like its own standalone.
And that was great. I loved it. It took a little bit to get used to, but once you got the rhythm of it, I'm like, okay, I'm on board for this, because you knew every 3 episodes you were going to get a climax of some kind.
And I could have swore when they first announced it, they announced it was only going to be like a single season series.
No, it was supposed to be multiple seasons. I think 3 or 4. But because of everything that's going on with Disney and Star Wars and how they're trying to restructure it and trying to save their ass, they've said that the next season, rather than having each season be a year, that the next season they're going to do the 3-episode format thing, but the 3 episodes are going to be 1 year. Then the next 3 episodes are going to be another year. Then the next 3 episodes are going to be another year, because they, I guess, budget concerns or something like that. I don't know, but it's kind of like I really wish you guys would do the multiple seasons, but because of everything that's going on right now, they're like, nah, we've decided to truncate it down, and that kind of scares me. It's like, well, okay.
See, and I think the opposite. Like, I would like to see, like, what they're doing with Marvel, with Star Wars, where it's like, okay, we are going to make a limited series and just tell a 1-season story arc of a character. And that's just it. It's just like, okay, we're going to do Echo, and we're going to do a season telling her story.
Like they did with Moon Knight.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, do that with Star Wars. Like, okay, you're not going to give me a Rogue Squadron movie. Give me a series based on Wedge Antilles. Like, I'll accept that. I honestly would rather see Rogue Squadron done as a Disney Plus series than as a movie.
Yeah, because it has more time to tell. Well, the Rogue Squadron series apparently wasn't supposed to be in the time the where we come from. It was going to be a different kind of Rogue Squadron series. It deals more with what the Rogue Squadron would be like after the fall of the Empire.
Well, and I mean, that's actually where a lot of the Rogue Squadron comic books and the books all took place. They took place after Return of the Jedi. Because in the Rogue Squadron novels that were written by Michael Stackpole, like, it takes place, I think, just before or just after the courtship of Princess Leia. So we're talking like 3 or 4 years after Return of the Jedi. And it was like, okay, well, we had Red Squadron for this, but now we need to build a elite military unit that is going to be the stars of the Republic Navy.
And that's what those two X-Wing characters that you see keep popping up in The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and stuff, that was what their show was supposed to be.
Well, their show was supposed to be Rangers of the Republic.
Yeah.
Rogue Squadron, I think, needs to be more of a military show. I would have liked to have seen a, like, Rey Star Wars era Rogue Squadron movie with Old Man Wedge Antilles teaching a new generation of
like a Top Gun kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could do a Top Gun Star Wars movie. I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
Like 100%. That's what a Rogue Squadron movie should be. It should. I mean, for the love of God, Top Gun 2 was basically a Rogue Squadron movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That would be okay.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to storytelling. So my only worry now is it too little too late? Is it too late to save? Because
I don't think so.
I really don't want to see the Star Wars Marvel Universe go the same path that DC has gone, to where, yes, we know James Gunn's coming out with these new movies, but at this point, nobody really, I mean, the diehard fanboys do, but I really don't. Even when they come out, I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't really care anymore. You know, I just don't.
Dennis Villeneuve made a sequel to Blade Runner 20 years after probably 30.
Longer than that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're talking the 80s, that was 20.
It was the best unnecessary sequel I've ever seen.
35 years after Blade Runner, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, there's no such thing as too little too late, as long as you put the effort in.
But Blade Runner 2 was looked at the same way Blade Runner 1 was as a failure. I mean, it didn't make a huge, but he didn't care. You know, that was the thing. People saw it because that's part of, like, generations have passed. When that movie came out, a lot of people were like, Blade Runner, that movie was, God, my dad grew up watching that. You know, that was the attitude about it. So, and like when I remember going to see it, I'm like, man, this better. I went in there expecting it to be crap, and I was actually bummed. But again, Blade Runner is one of those sacred movies to me, and when I was like, holy shit, this actually pulled it off.
Oh yeah, I know, which makes me terribly sad because Dennis Villeneuve was supposed to be one of the people that was going to be tasked to do an Aliens movie. And then he didn't. They ended up pulling him off the project because I forget why, but he wanted to do an Aliens movie that was more towards like Aliens and not Covenant, and he was supposed to do a continuation of that timeline, not where Ridley Scott went back and did a prequel.
I think he could do it. He would be probably one of the very few people that I would say, yeah, he's in charge of it. It'll be okay, because he's so passionate and so detail oriented about what he does. He's like James Cameron in that regard, but
James
he doesn't. Cameron. But I think he could pull it off. But by the same token, I also don't want him to get pigeonholed as the guy that goes back and takes old franchises and makes them good.
Yeah.
You know, because he's done this twice now. He did it with Blade Runner, and he's done it with Dune. But he also did The Arrival. Like the movies that he's done, or standalone movies, are also very good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that guy can make a bad movie. Now watch, I'll ruin it.
Right. Well, and I mean, there's the Aliens TV show. I forget who's making it, that's coming out. And we'll see how that is. But I don't know. It's just one of those franchises where it's like they're doing all this weird stuff with it, except the one thing like everybody I know who loves the franchise wants them to do, which is a fucking Colonial Marines movie. You know,
you're the only and it's fine. I'll watch it, but you're the only person that I've ever heard talk about wanting a Colonial Marines movie.
Man, I must exist in an echo chamber, because like a bunch of like my friends, like Chuck and everybody, we are just all about Colonial Marines, and we want more Colonial Marine stuff.
That's fine. I'd go see it, but I think you guys are the only ones that I've ever heard that are championing that cause. And I'll watch it if it's done right. Sure, I'll go watch it. I mean, I'm not against it, but I just don't hear a lot of other people talking about it. I know that there's talk out there, all kinds of different talk of making another Aliens movie, because it's one of those franchises that it's just going to make money.
It refuses to die.
Well, it's too much of a moneymaker. It's like Star Trek and Star Wars and all of the great all the great sci-fi classics. It's like you don't want to let that die. There's too much money to be made there. It's just a matter of how do you treat the property? That's my biggest thing. When you take good franchises and good stories and good things and just shit all over them just to make a buck, right. That's the thing that I get mad about. You know, like even the last season of Picard, it had its flaws, but by and large, I loved it, and a lot of people did, and now everybody wants Star Trek Legacy. And Paramount's in a situation where they're like, okay, everybody wants this. We know they'll come and watch it. We know they'll make money, but we don't have the capabilities and the money and the ability to produce that now.
It's like...
And everybody's looking at Paramount going, make this movie, make this show, you know?
Well, and it's like, because you have the generations who like came to Star Trek through Next Generation and DS9 and Voyager, and they want to see the continuation forward of the timeline,
but also bringing new stuff in
instead of going back and telling the past. It's like, no, we want to see what's the next thing, what happens, like where is the future of this franchise. We don't want to retell the past of it.
The only thing that I've seen that's been good along those lines is Strange New Worlds, because Strange New Worlds does a fantastic job of telling new stories in an old setting with an old new crew, I guess.
I don't know. Like I have no interest in seeing that.
Oh, it's good. It really is.
It's
the best Trek that I've seen in a long, long time.
I never cared for the original, the Star Trek, the original series.
You don't need to.
Yeah,
but the problem that show has, and people are dumb, is that show. That's why I think you would like it, because it doesn't take itself super seriously. Every once in a while, they'll do a couple of episodes that are just funny.
Oh my God. So they did the Lower Decks crossover where the
great episode.
Yeah. So now they're talking about in the next season, they want to have the Enterprise or the Strange New Worlds cast appear on Lower Decks.
Oh, that'd be great.
And I'm like, I am here for this.
Did you watch that episode of Strange New Worlds?
I haven't sat down and watched it. I've watched a bunch of clips from it, and it's...
Really, do watch Strange New Worlds. Give it a shot.
I am really falling in love with what's his name, Dennis Quaid's son.
Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid. I'm falling between The Boys and Lower Decks. I'm really falling in love with him.
That episode was great because you had no problem watching that and going, these are the guys from Lower Decks, because they did it live action so well. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is they went back in and they paid attention to little things that were in Lower Decks and transposed them over to the live action. And it was done so incredibly well. Because, like, Lower Decks, you were telling me about, it took me forever to watch it. Because I'm like, I was one of those people, I'm like, I don't want Trek to be funny. And it was really good.
It's so good. It's honestly, Like, my favorite Trek shows now are The Orville, Lower Decks, Babylon 5, and then Deep Space Nine.
Oh, really? Galaxy Quest doesn't fall in there anywhere?
No. I don't
That's
know.
what's funny, because everybody in Star Trek, like
Oh, yeah, like everybody.
Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, Shatner, they all loved Galaxy Quest because it pokes so much fun at it, and
Yes.
the conventions and everything, and they're like, this is fantastic, you know? They love it. They're like, this is Star Trek. But Strange New Worlds, you don't have to like the old Star Trek. It does a fantastic job of telling its own original stories. The only thing I don't like about the show, and I'm okay with this, is I don't like the guy they have playing Captain Kirk, which I'm okay with because I don't want a show about Captain Kirk. I've seen that story for years. I want something new, and the guy that they got playing Captain Kirk just doesn't quite do the part, and I'm okay with that because I don't want him to steal the show. I'm tired of Kirk, you know. Yeah, watch it. I really do think you should watch it. I watched The Expanse for you, and I liked it. I watched Lower Decks. I really think you should give that show a chance. Just watch it from the beginning. It doesn't rely a whole lot on old Trek.
But you have to... the other problem is I don't have a way to watch it easily because I don't have Paramount Plus. And unfortunately, the show I'm really like that I haven't watched yet that I've been seeing clips of that I really want to watch is For All Mankind.
I don't know anything about that.
For All Mankind is an Apple Plus series, and it's basically it's telling the story of the space race, but what happens if the Russian got there first? And it's this alternate history of like, okay, now America is the underdog in the space race. The Russians have weaponized space, and like they're like fighting gun battles on the moon because...
So it's Philip K. Dick.
Kind of. And then as the seasons go by, it advances the timeline to like, okay, first it's just like the rocket men, like just the Apollo programs and all that. Like America had to build the Apollo rocket underwater because they couldn't hide it, or they had to hide it from the Russian spy satellites. And then in the next season, it's like 10 years later, and now there's colonies on the moon, and like the two countries are having like a Cold War on the moon. And now this third season is going to advance it to like the 90s. So you've got like the space shuttle era. Both of them are kind of on par. China's coming up, and it goes into like asteroid mining, and like now the new search for resources is going out to the asteroid belt. So it seems like it's going to have like a very Expanse kind of feel to it. But like everything I've seen of like the previews for the next seasons, like, yeah, this looks super interesting. I think I need to watch this.
All right, maybe I'll give it a shot. You know, I'm always looking for new stuff to watch.
Like I said, I gotta find where I can pirate it. So
it's not real hard.
It is not. It really isn't.
As a person that runs the whole Cinema Labad Discord thing, it's not hard to. Well, then again, it's a bad example because there's a lot of movies that I want to put on there that I just can't find, no matter how much I dig for them.
Oh, we still got to watch The Golden Needles.
I don't know what that is.
That was the one where it was about. It was a like Hong Kong action movie where they discovered a acupuncture technique that made you immortal. And, like, they're fighting over this doll that shows where to put the needles to make somebody an immortal.
Huh.
We saw it on one of the previews.
The Grindhouse movie trailer videos, yeah. Yeah. I'll explain that for everybody listening. There's this thing that I do in the summertime. I set up a movie screen in my backyard. I have a digital projector I run on my computer. And we'll just watch movies in the backyard, like going to the drive-in movie theater. Well, now that the summer's over with and it's getting cold, I also do that on the Discord channel that I have on Cinema Labad. We'll watch bad movies on Discord. But on nights where we really can't figure out what we want to watch, or if we just want to sit and chill out and have a good time or whatever, there are these videos on YouTube that are just hours long of just grindhouse movie trailers for these movies that were just shown in these little cheesy cinemas and stuff like that. And movies back then were different. The trailers, like you could watch a Grindhouse movie trailer and it'll be 10 minutes, 15 minutes long. And you're like, is this still the same trailer? They basically give you the whole damn movie. And we've seen some pretty interesting. I've actually downloaded a couple of movies that you told me to download and say we need to watch this, or I'll find them or whatever. So it's one of our things.
There was, I remember
Zachariah, the first electric
Jeremiah, the Electric Cowboy. That was one of them. Then there was one where it was, it's like the butcher of
because you were drunk that night.
Yeah, I was pretty out of it.
Yeah,
and like the trailer for this movie was like 5 minutes long.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I thought it was a second trailer, and it was still the same trailer.
And I'm like, no, this is what these are. So if anybody out there's listening and you're just bored and you want to throw something in the background, go on YouTube and search and do a search for Grindhouse movie trailers. And the sad thing is, like, I don't like doing it very often because we'll all be sitting there like, we need to find this movie, and I won't be able to find the movie because some of them are just so far out there. Or I'll be like, okay, if you want to watch this movie, you have to find it, and we can watch it back here, or you can watch it on the Discord channel or something like that. So,
So talking on Cinema Labad, as we bring this to a close, how are things going? What's going on with Cinema Labad? What's going on with Project Archivist?
Archivist, if I could ever get off my ass and sit down and record an episode, I got a couple of, they're ready to go. I've got the news stories set up to go, but it's just getting the gumption to sit down and do it. Plus, I just moved the studio from downstairs up into a different room. I have a new computer. I got it all set up. I just need to sit down and pick a day and say, I'm going to record this show. Cinema Labad isn't really a podcaster, though I could do a podcast off of it about once a month or something like that. It's a Facebook group where we just post cheesy bad B movies, but they're not always necessarily bad. Some of them are pretty good. We've watched some really good ones lately. Talk to Me was a fantastic horror movie. No One Will Help You has been pretty good. We watched Drive last night. And then as far as bad movies go, we recently just watched Beastmaster, which, big classic for everybody growing up. It was always, as you said, what did you say about HBO?
In the early 80s it was HBO stood for, hey, Beastmaster's on.
Yeah. So we threw that on. And then we also watched this movie called The New Barbarians, which I believe it's out there. That's another thing I try to do. Whenever I post movies on Cinema Labad, we'll watch them and then I'll write up a little thing about it, like my description of the movie. And if I can find it somewhere for people to watch it for free, I always try to provide a free link for it. It's a private group, so if you have to do a search for it and ask to get into it, we try to keep the bots and stuff out. And then I also have a Discord server where every couple of nights a week I'll just find something and throw it up there, and we'll just say, hey, if you want to watch a movie, drop into the Discord and we'll have something streaming. But that's just something that we do. It's not like a podcast or whatever. But I probably could do a movie review podcast, once a month or whatever. We pick a movie, we all watch it, and then we all sit down and talk about it and do a discussion about that movie, which I wouldn't mind doing, but I just don't know if I want to put any more on my plate.
Yeah, I was going to say, get yourself set up and ready to go, and then start it.
Yeah, it's just, do I want to do another podcast? But I could. I mean, it'd be a matter of finding the people that'd be willing to come on and talk about this bad movie experience. But yeah, it's Archivist. I want to fire it back up, but I've been doing it for 16 years now, and truth be told, the world of the paranormal just doesn't hold as much interest in me anymore, so I got to figure out a direction to take that podcast into and see what I want to do with that show, or if I just want to finally just put it to rest and move on or whatever. So I don't know. I'm figuring that stuff out now as time goes on.
All right, and you can always find us on the Old Nerds Drinking Facebook page,
which is still doing great.
Yeah, it is. Come for the podcast, stay for the memes.
Yeah, I'm very proud of how that community is still continuing to thrive. The memes are being posted, things are being talked about. It's still a very thriving Facebook group, and I'm still, even though we don't get episodes out all the time, that community there, I'm not even sure how many people on that page actually listen to our show, but they do hang out on the page, and I'm very proud of it.
Dozens of them.
Dozens, literally dozens of people hang out on that page. It's like the Cinema Labad group. That just started out as a joke because we were watching so many bad movies. I needed a place to put them to keep track of what we'd watched, and the next thing I know, the page just started growing, and there's so many people on there. I have no idea who these people are, but they're posting movies and stuff of their own, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is weird. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know there's a couple of people I put into the group because they were like bad movie enthusiasts, and I was like, yeah, dude, come on. even if you never can come out and watch a movie with us, like, come on into the group and have a good time.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of people that interact in there, but there's a lot of people in there that do follow the posts and stuff like that, which I'm happy with. You know, you don't have to interact if you don't want to.
Right.
So as long as people are getting something out of it.
All right, and I think with that, we'll wrap it up and say...
End of line.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
German? Forget it, he's rolling.
And it ain't over now.
So, what's the plan? Take car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, sorry, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Might as well write him off. Let's close up the bridge. Let's get out of here. Close it up. Lights out.
Where are you headed, cowboy?
Nowhere special.
Nowhere special. I always wanted to go there.
We're going streaking! Yeah!
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please disperse.